welcome to the Slow Train to the Travers Stakes. This is the year number 2 for that. Last year, we did Slow Train to the Travers with handicapping guru Mark Cramer. He's going to join us again this year. And this season, we got the same prep races pretty much, the Haskell, the Jim Dandy leading up to the Travers. I think we might have a more full field for the Travers this year than last year. But anyway, just a couple notes. We're going to get Joe Withy from Emerald Downs on a video series here to talk about the Long Acres Mile and other things. Emerald Downs up in Seattle, suburbs of Seattle, they had a 20% increase in their purses this year. So we're also going to talk to Joe about what's going right up there. There's a lot of news in the racing industry about what's going wrong, but here we have a small track increasing their purses by 20%. So they're doing something right up there. They've lowered their takeout on win, place, and show bets to 14.7%, which I think is the lowest in the country. So Joe will have a lot of interesting things to say about not only the local track, but the industry in general. Join us for that. And last year, the final Slow Train to the Travers video, Mark Cramer came on and he did this tremendous research into the writings of novelist and poet Charles Bukowski, who was an avid race player. And Mark put together what he thought would be Charles Bukowski's pick in that race. Had a lot of interesting things to say about odds. Bukowski had kind of this natural instinct about value at the races. And Mark tapped into that. It's a really interesting segment. If you missed it, go to YouTube, the Instant Value Handicapping channel, and search Slow Train to the Travers Bukowski, and you'll see that 30-minute interview. So today we bring back Mark Cramer. The train is rolling. Mark, welcome aboard.
Yeah, well, I'm on the Metrolink in Southern California today. That's my train.
Yeah, look at that.
And the train to Del Mar, the Amtrak.
So, yeah, I was thinking about that today. I'm just old enough to remember when train commuting was a normal thing that a lot of people did. I have this memory going to driving to Narragansett Park in Rhode Island, but they had a huge photo in the grandstand. The commuter train used to run up almost to the end of the grandstand, the stretch turn end of the grandstand. And in the photo, you have this gap between the train station and the grandstand just filled with people getting off the train and pouring into the racetrack. That's from like the 1940s, maybe early 1950s. And it's just that image has always stuck with me, and it's like, what a shame that doesn't happen anymore. But you mentioned the commuter train to Del Mar. Does that tend to be filled these days, or?
Well, I haven't been for a long time, so I can't say. But I also want to give a plug to the other coast, even though today is Southern California Nostalgia Day for me, but which I'll get to. But the other coast, I remember the buses going from New York City to Saratoga. And it was incredible. It would be like Tale of Two Buses. The first, on the way there, everybody was shouting and happy and joyful. And on the way back, you could hear a pin drop. Sorry to use a cliche there, but it was true. So, and that's a long ride to be in such silence. So I prefer the train to Del Mar, actually.
Yeah, I experienced that too. I once took a bus ride from Boston to Atlantic City, and it was the same thing. It was party bus down to Atlantic City, and there was one passenger in the back who noticed the difference on the way in. He said, we were partying the way down, but we're singing the blues on the way back. And unfortunately, that was the reality. All right, so go on. You have Southern California stories here.
Well, I just wanted to say that there was a few viewers who contacted me criticizing me because I was always wearing a San Francisco hat on your broadcasts. So today I have an LA hat. I have an LA Bicycle Coalition t-shirt. I have Charles Bukowski's book with mainly LA poems, including the autograph he sent to me with his picture on the bottom, in which he says, "Hell, Mark, I hit the 4." And to be fair, we have to give some credit to Shohei Ohtani. So I have the Angels. I'm drinking my cold water. It isn't really cold water, but I'm telling everybody it is, with my Angels cup here. So that's Southern California for today.
Yeah, excellent. All right, so we've kind of given attention to the West Coast, and the service that we're running at lazybettorusa.com, Racetrack Super Scout, is a subscription service with our picks, has been focusing on mostly the major tracks on the East Coast. So I'm glad you kind of brought the West Coast in there, so we can be a broad-based service here. And I know you're living in Paris, France, and you bring a lot of perspective on European turf racing into our Breeders' Cup broadcasts. So we're a very small group of handicappers here, but we're covering a worldwide spectrum of racing, all in all.
Well, Roger, before you get before we get to the all the 3-year-olds, I would like to say that I've begun compiling my Saratoga long shot trainer stats, just to see who's hot right now. And at the moment, the trainer the only trainer who's had 2 long shot victories, that's $13 or above, is Michael Maker. Is that his first name? And
Michael.
And right. And I have an interesting jockey stat too. Of the 7 long shots in the first 2 days at Saratoga, 5 of them were ridden by jockeys whose last name ends with a Z. So this could be an interesting jockey situation. I'm not usually a jockey bettor, but that's quite a stat. 5 out of 7 with the jockey's last name ending in Z.
Yeah, that is quite a stat. I'm going to throw another jockey name into the mix there for Saratoga. I was looking through some stats for last year, and what jumped out at me as I was looking at an old, I believe it was September 1st or September 4th racing form from Saratoga last year, and Ricardo Santana was winning at 26%. He's most notably a Midwest jockey. Steve Asmussen used to use him on his top horses, but it seems like Ricardo goes up to Saratoga and gets an early start on securing mounts there. And I know he had a winner on opening day that paid a decent price. So he's somebody to keep an eye on. He's got live mounts last year, seems to be off to a good start this year. Well,
of the 7 long shot winners at Saratoga the first 2 days, 3 of them were written by Saez. So this could be the hot jockey for the first few weeks.
Yeah, that would be good. I'd love to see Luis Saez win the riding title up there. He's been one of my favorite jockeys for several years now. I think he does. He reminds me of a lot of good jockeys, but in particular Pat Day, in how he nurses speed to the wire. So many times I see Saez on a front runner who gets caught at the top of the stretch, and you think, okay, that's it, he's done. And Saez will just wait and wait and wait to ask for that last burst, and seems to always come back at them at the wire, usually to win. He's really highly skilled jockey, and one that I think you can get a price on again, because people are so obsessed with the Ortiz brothers and with Pratt coming to New York. I think he's being overlooked. He's a tremendously skilled jockey who you're getting some value on now.
Yeah, a rider who outperforms his odds is worth when you have a close call on two horses, and one of them is the rider who outperforms his odds. That helps to make the decision.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, focusing in on the Travers, this segment, we're going to kind of look back. We don't have a particular race that we're looking at, but we're going to look backwards at the Triple Crown races, some of the contenders there. It seems like all of the top finishers in the Kentucky Derby, Preakness, and Belmont are still in training. I haven't heard of anyone being sidelined with injury or illness. So hopefully we'll get a field this year more competitive than last year, where it really boiled down to Midnight Bourbon and Essential Quality as the only top level graded stakes winners who showed up. Hot Rod Charlie, Mandaloon, and Medina Spirit were all out. So let's take a look back. Do you want to go race by race, or just kind of hop around from horse to horse?
Well, Roger, you're the boss here, but I do want to, we do have to do race by race, but I do want to say also that I have a lot of the pre-entries for the Haskell, just in case.
Oh, good. I actually haven't looked at those yet. So yeah, let's go back to Kentucky Derby. We have the top two finishes, Rich Strike and Epicenter. Rich Strike is a horse that I downgraded pretty much throughout in the Preakness. I thought that his win in the Derby, the only really impressive thing there was Sonny Leon's ride. Just phenomenal traffic weaving ride that he gave Rich Strike. But the pace was really fast. It was the first time in a long time we had a sprinter in the Derby who went out and ran like a sprinter and got a few horses to chase him like sprinters. And it all fell apart in the stretch and set up for Rich Strike to come from way back. I don't see him winning another grade 1 or grade 2 race unless that happens again. And it doesn't happen all that often. So Rich Strike, I'm not sure where they're pointing him, but I would drop him from any real consideration in the Travers if he makes it there.
Yeah, I think if I were owner of Rich Strike, I would target him for any races at Churchill Downs, because I think he was favored by that course. He is a horse for course, as far as I'm concerned. And so run him at Churchill, even for lower purses.
Yeah. Okay. So Strike, Rich Strike, off the list here of possible contenders. So Epicenter is, I think, a little more interesting of a possibility. What do you think of his performance through the Triple Crown series?
Well, I think for me, Epicenter is my futures choice for second place in the Breeders' Cup Classic. I think he has a staying power to still be around when that race comes along. And I think he's the exotic inclusion for all these races if he's going to be in there, because he's not like some of these other horses that sometimes they have a good day, sometimes they have a bad day. They depend on a fast pace or they depend on a slow pace. Epicenter can get the job done no matter what the racing circumstance is. And I think he has legitimate excuse. I'm even wondering, I watched the Derby again last night. I'm wondering if the rider on Epicenter just simply did not see Rich Strike coming. And I think if he'd have known Rich Strike was coming, I think he could have urged the horse a little bit more.
Yeah, that's possible. There was quite a gap between the two horses, with Rich Strike on the rail and Epicenter kind of floated out to the middle of the track. I was really high on Epicenter. He was my Kentucky Derby selection. But I got off the bandwagon in the Preakness because twice he had done something that made me question whether he's a true grade 1 horse. He's certainly a talented horse. He's going to win most graded stakes races that he's in. But I believe it was a Risen Star. It was one of the early preps in Louisiana. Joel Rosario rushed him out of the gate, and he set pretty fast fractions through the first 4 furlongs. And then he got caught at the wire by a long shot called Call Me Midnight after being aggressively ridden early. That was early in his 3-year-old season. That didn't bother me. I thought it was a good effort that he would improve off of, and he did. But then he did the same thing in the Kentucky Derby. He was forced to stay close to a very fast pace, and once again, he got nailed by a long shot coming down to the wire. So in the Preakness, I took the stand that he probably is a little bit pace challenge in that if he tried to keep up with early voting early, he was going to get caught by somebody late. If he sat off of early voting, he probably wasn't going to be able to catch that horse, and that's exactly what happened. So now looking ahead to the Travers, if it comes up as a competitive field with an honest pace, I think Epicenter could be in trouble again, and I would agree with you. I'd look for him in the second spot in that race and something else to win.
Yeah, you know, the only argument, I think you're right about those fractions, and I remember reading your report about that before the Preakness, and you were spot on there. The only thing is that Epicenter did hold off all of these classier closers that still finished behind him in the Kentucky Derby. Zandon couldn't get past him, and some of the other guys who later came back to race good races did not pass him either. So, you know, I think he's going to be there. And like I say, I'm putting him in second, not in first.
Yeah, and I would consider him for the top spot. You know, depending on how I see the pick setting up. I mean, he's certainly talented enough to, like you say, to beat most of the talented closers we see this year. So he's in the running. Early voting winner of the Preakness. What did you think of him, Mark?
Well, I think it was a setup for him. I just don't see him. There are too many speed horses that are now in the mix that weren't in the mix when he was had that Preakness. And I can just say one of them, for example, if he gets tied up with Baffert's Pinehurst in any race, I don't think he's going to have a chance to hold on. But in his favor is that he actually tracked. He didn't take the lead in the Preakness. He tracked the other speed horse. So, you know, good horse, but I've got him a notch below.
Yes, I would agree with you there. I was rewatching the Preakness earlier today, and the fractions were average there. They weren't real fast. He's kind of sat behind a long shot who figured to fade and just took over. And Epicenter in that race, Rosario decided to take him well off the pace, and Epicenter really had no chance because of that. So yeah, I agree with you. Early voting had a perfect setup there. The race set up for him. The one thing in his favor, though, he's a very lightly raced horse, and so he could improve off of that effort. Like you said, he's shown an ability to track, sit off the pace, and relax and run. So he's a horse who could definitely improve on those kind of average fractions in the Preakness. I think that was an easy race for him, but he did what he was supposed to do. He cooperated with the jockey and just took over in the stretch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anything else behind them doesn't look good, and from the Preakness either.
Yeah, and if early voting can handle a slightly faster pace, the closers in the Travers are going to have a very tough time in that race, and which brings us to maybe Mo Donegal.
Yeah, well, Mo Donegal, he won the Belmont, but I ask you all to look at that Belmont race and on YouTube and look at Nest. Look how he got off slowly and was rushed up to stay close to the lead, and look how he got stuck behind a wall of horses in the stretch, and he had to unwind and wind up again to get moving. I thought Nest was actually the best one in the race. And this filly, I think I'm going to put this filly in my future win bet and exacta in order of Nest on top of Epicenter for the Breeders' Cup Classic. I think Nest has a lot of, and the same thing with her previous race. She also got caught behind a wall of horses. But that said, you know, some horses are trouble prone. And speaking as one who is trouble prone myself, no matter how hard I try to warn myself about being trouble prone, it still happens again and again. So that could be the only defect for Nest.
It could be. Those two races were like carbon copies of each other, where she got stuck on the rail and it just didn't open up for her. And I agree, she was my pick in the Belmont, and I was kind of frustrated that the same situation unfolded there for her, where she just had to wait and wait and wait, and that gave Mo Donegal the head start he needed to win. And so Mo Donegal in the Wood Memorial, he won that with one of the fastest times we've seen in the Wood Memorial since maybe Fusaichi Pegasus back in 2000, something like that. But it was kind of off script for him. He hadn't run that fast in any other of his races, and in the Kentucky Derby, he certainly didn't follow up on that. So that seemed like an aberration. Then he wins the Belmont Stakes, and does that legitimize him in any way? And I would say no, because of what happened to Nest, because the pace of the Belmont is slower, because the distance favors a horse like Mo Donegal, and shortening back up to 1.25 miles with a fast pace, and horses who can persist after pressing or setting a fast pace. I think I would downgrade him in the Travers if he makes it there.
Yeah, well, also the travel, looking at the other races leading up to the Travers, and I have to put in a plug for old timers like us, because we're looking in the future here as handicappers. And, you know, I'm 77 years old, and 1 year in my life is 1/77th of my lifetime. When I was 20 years old, 1 year of my life was 1/20th of my lifetime. So that means a year for us old timers is shorter, which means we should be able to see farther into the future for these races. That's my logic. And so getting back to Mo Donegal, I think that the future of the Travers, the way it looks here, is that the field is going to be much thicker in contention than it was in the Belmont. And I don't think that bodes well for Mo Donegal. I think that he was, you know, he finished ahead of Skippy Longstocking. That doesn't get too many credentials for him, in my book.
Yeah, I agree. And also that's a good point, because the Travers is probably going to look more like the Kentucky Derby than the Belmont when we finally get to it, hopefully. And then before we kind of wrap up, Nest, I agree with you. Impressive horse has drawn away in all their wins against fillies, was kicking on in the stretch of the Belmont, despite the difficulties you mentioned in her trip. Really talented filly that Todd Pletcher has there, and it'd be very interesting to see her run in the Travers. She would have a real shot at winning there. I agree with you.
So what about now? I'm disappointed actually for the Haskell. We still have time to go over the Haskell a little bit.
Yeah, we have a few minutes left. So let's, if you've got the pre-entries there, why don't you tell us who's pointing that
Well,
way?
I mean, this race, it looks like the B team is showing up for this race, but it looks like a really interesting race to handicap. You have two potential horses of Bob Baffert, Taiba, who Baffert wasn't handling the horse when Taiba failed and was racing too early in her career against the big shots. And he has another horse, Pinehurst, who looks like the kind of horse that can destroy the other early speed horses. Pinehurst, if you look at the UAE Derby, ran extremely fast, and the word was that the horse was injured and didn't make it into the stretch. So those two horses by Bob Baffert at least figure to have some sort of impact. Then you have Cyberknife, who's you have two horses of the Cox stable, Cyberknife and Homebrew. Homebrew actually won a prep at the same track as the Haskell. So it's a horse that you might get a good price on. Cyberknife, this field does not seem any better than the Arkansas Derby for Cyberknife. So I think he's got a chance here. And he did win another race on between then, but I don't know what the grade of the race was. The Matt Wynn race. We have to look that one up. Then you have a couple of Chad Brown horses, Jack Christopher, who looks like he has enormous talent. Early voting may go here or may go in the Jim Dandy. Zandon may go here and may go in the Jim Dandy. I think early voting and Zandon may both choose the Jim Dandy, and maybe each stable is waiting to see which one the other one is going to choose, and then maybe stay in the Travers. And then you have White Abarrio, who's a horse who at least in caliber measures up to every other horse in this field. So for a race to handicap, this one looks really good. And if Pinehurst gets into the race and early voting, who may get in there, we could have a setup for a horse that's slightly off the pace. Yeah,
and especially since there are a lot of horses in there who haven't won at the grade 1 level, what often happens is the pace heats up and they can't handle it, and it sets up nicely for a closer. As you describe it there, Baffert seems like he might have the upper hand in that. If you assume that most of Baffert's horses shipping east are legitimate grade 1 horses, he might be encountering a field that isn't quite at that level. But that race, the Haskell, is next Saturday, the 23rd of July at Monmouth. We'll probably be taking a look at that race on our website, lazybettorusa.com. And we're going to have to wrap it there, Mark. Thank you for joining us on the slow train to the Travers. You can pick up Mark's books. You can pick up his novel, Please Hold All Tickets, on our website, lazybettorusa.com. We'll send it to you postage free. And Mark also has a great book about cycling and life called Old Man on a Green Bike, available on Amazon, as well as Urban Everesting. Just lots of interesting stuff from Mark across the spectrum of topics. Mark, any closing comments?
Well, regarding the Baffert thing, because that's what everybody's favorite soap opera subject is, he has won the Haskell 9 times. So it would be interesting to look back at the horses he did have in the Haskell before to see if he was coming in with a couple of horses that do not quite measure up. Because I don't think Taiba, we were against Taiba in the previous races. These horses don't quite measure up. And let's see if he actually peaked with some horses in the Haskell. That'll give us an idea about where these 2 entries will be.
Yeah, good points. Good points, Mark. Well, thank you for joining us on the Slow Train. Hey, hit a like or subscribe to this channel, because we'll have Mark back. We'll take a look back at the Haskell, maybe a look ahead at the Jim Dandy next time he's on. We're going to continue with the Slow Train series all the way up to the Travers and get Mark's picks for the Travers also. And that's about it from us here at Instant Value Handicapping and Lazy Bettor USA. Thanks, Mark, and we'll be talking to you again real soon.
Thanks, Roger. Always a great discussion here. Thanks to the viewers as well.
All right.